She is one of the world's leading psychology researchers in areas that include motivation, why people succeed or don't, and how to foster success. Her acclaimed work on growth mindsets has shown the profound effects of believing that human attributes, like intelligence, are moldable and not fixed. Carol Dweck is the Lewis and Virginia Eaton Professor of Psychology at Stanford University. She has won more than a dozen Lifetime Achievement Awards, been elected to the American Academy of Arts and Sciences and the National Academy of Sciences, and addressed the United Nations. Dweck's pioneering growth mindset research has led to important innovations in schools and businesses that increase creativity and productivity, as well as inclusion and equity. Her book, Mindset, has sold over 7 million copies worldwide and is part of the inspiration for this event. Please welcome Carol Dweck to the stage.
I can't believe it. We're doing this.
Either.
Carol, it's such an honor to have you with us. Thank you for coming out from California to be with us today.
My pleasure.
We were talking yesterday. I read your book years ago, reread it recently, and it was just one of the more powerful books, I think, that I've ever come across relative to what we've talked about so much already this morning, and this idea that people with the right mindset, a growth mindset, regardless of where they come from, really can do great things. And I think that's part of what inspires us here. Just as a quick aside, one of my first trips to a GE factory down in Greenville, South Carolina, I walked into our daily management room, and painted up on the wall was a graphic from Carol's book on the growth mindset. And we'll talk a little bit about what's captured in that graphic. And when I saw that, I just had the best feeling that I was amongst friends, and we had a common bond, and we would be all right as we went about the journey of transforming that facility, that business, and ultimately our company. So your effect on GE and a number of us has been significant. I'm sure everybody has read the book. But in case there's anyone who hasn't, or perhaps for those for whom it's been a while, what was the general thesis of Mindset?
Well, I've always been inspired by great achievements, meaningful contributions, and I've always been saddened by wasted potential. Way back in graduate school, I made it my mission to figure out the psychology behind wasted potential versus fulfilled potential. And after a few years, my research team and I learned that people's mindsets can play a key role in fulfilling their potential. In a fixed mindset, people think their abilities, their talents, their intelligence, just a fixed trait. You have a certain amount, that's it. Some of us were born lucky, some were not so lucky. But in a growth mindset, people believe that your abilities, talents, intelligence can be developed through effort, but not just effort, through strategies, through help, mentoring, collaboration with others. It's not that everyone's the same or everyone could do anything, but it's that everyone has this potential for growth. And we never know beforehand how much they can grow and what they can become.
So that fueled the research. What then triggered the writing of the book?
The writing of the book, if I'm being honest, as Peyton Manning was honest, when I wrote the book, it was published originally in 2006. It was not looked upon well for academics to be writing books for the public. Now everyone's doing it. But in those days, you were called a popularizer, which was a really bad word. But my graduate students, I like to say, held a gun to my head. And they said they had benefited from the work. Their families had benefited from the work. Their families and friends were starting on whole new paths that they wouldn't have otherwise. So I succumbed.
Carol, simply put, if someone has a fixed mindset, the antithesis of a growth mindset, what can they do to change?
Well, first of all, we all have some fixed mindsets and it's a kind of a journey to root that out. But what I'll give you are the initial steps. Every September, I teach a course, a seminar, with 15 new Stanford freshmen. They are excited. They are terrified. They are terrified. And I start by doing two things. One is I fire them from their old job. I said, your old job was competing to get into Stanford. You're here. It's not going to work here. Your new job is to take advantage of the incredible resources here and the incredible people here to grow yourself into the person you want to be, the person who will make your contribution to the world. And then I give them an assignment. I say, your assignment for this week, and you're going to write about it for me, is to do something outrageously growth mindset. Nothing foolhardy or dangerous, something wonderful, something the person you want to be would do. But you're not there yet, but you're going to do it. And you're going to learn from it. And you're going to keep doing it. But do one really big thing this week that the person you want to be would do, and write to me about it.
So give us an example of an outrageous growth mindset action a student took.
There was one student who wanted to do public service eventually that would involve meeting and greeting and conversing and whatever. He was so painfully shy, it was almost pathological. He was sitting in his room by himself during the whole student orientations and missing the whole Stanford experience. For his paper, he decided to run for president of his dorm. So the night for campaign speeches came along, and he thought, I can still sit down, but what will I write for my paper? So he got up, he gave his speech, and he won. He became the center of social life in his whole dormitory, and he kept on from there.
Carol, you mentioned a moment ago that nobody is completely of a growth mindset or a fixed mindset, but we all have maybe a bit of both. What triggers one versus the other?
Yeah. All of us have things that trigger, no matter how growth mindset we are, we all have things that kind of trigger us into more of a fixed mindset. A big challenge that we're not sure we can do, struggling and not making progress. Whoa, I don't see other people struggling. Setbacks, kind of the ultimate failure in a fixed mindset. But the real culprit is comparing yourself to others constantly. There's always going to be there are always going to be others who do something better than you do. And when you're in a growth mindset, you take inspiration from that. You ask them to mentor you, you discuss them, you collaborate with them. But in a fixed mindset, you think, uh-oh, that person is the one who really has the talent, not me. So in this class, I teach them how to listen to the growth mindset voice in their heads and make friends with it. hey, I hear you. I know you're trying to keep me safe, but you think you can jump on my growth mindset goal and collaborate with me. So not squash it, not quell it, not kill it, make it your friend, get to know it, kind of co-opt it.
Carol, we've been talking about the mindset as it pertains to individuals. It also applies to organizations, businesses, teams, and the like. How would you define an organization's mindset?
Absolutely. A growth mindset organization believes in and values the development of everyone's ability. A fixed mindset organization believes in, and I'll say worships, fixed talent. We call that the culture of genius, growth mindset, culture of growth or development. Now, you might think that what you do is you hold workshops for everyone in the company, the leaders, the employees, the managers, hold these fantastic workshops and give everyone a growth mindset. And you'd have a growth mindset company. But you would be wrong. It's a culture. It's these mindsets, cultural, organizational mindsets, are deeply embedded in the policies and practices of an organization. Let me give you an example of a growth mindset organization that I had the pleasure of working with. I went to their headquarters. I entered the skyscraper that they inhabited, and the door attendant waves my book at me, and he says, "Professor Dweck, welcome. We've been really excited about your visit." I go, okay. Then I go to reception, and at reception they say, "Professor Dweck, we can't wait to hear your talk." I thought, wow, it's not just the muckamucks or the leadership, it's everybody. And then I saw these sign-up sheets around the lobby, and I said, "What are those?" And they said, these are special projects that anyone in the organization can sign up for. Everyone felt so proud, so valued, and so committed.
Carol, one of the things that we do at GE, as we've discussed, in all of our businesses on a regular basis are what we call our monthly operating reviews. And that's how we run the business. It's a cross-functional conversation. It's not a flyby. We go in deep, probably spend more time on where we're off target than we are on target, and really try to understand root cause, make adjustments, call audibles as appropriate, and really create that mindset, right? Yeah. That these are opportunities, they're not problems that we should shunt aside, let alone hide. What are some other things you've seen organizations do to really try to drive this growth mindset?
I've seen organizations do extreme versions of that, and I'm sure you do too. For example, they don't just go to Gemba. They have programs within the company that identify talent in places they never would have looked for it. And some of the leaders emerge in that way. So Microsoft has annual hackathons. Anyone can propose an idea, assemble a team, and get funding to explore a new project. Many of their leaders have come in this way. They have special units that, for example, workers on the autism spectrum who can make amazing contributions, but are not usually comfortable in a workplace. So these kind of extreme, the CEOs, these CEOs visit all the departments every year, looking for talent, especially looking for people from an underrepresented groups who might not have had the confidence or the courage to propose an idea and assemble a team. So it's like bringing Gemba up. And the other thing is the extreme of continuous improvement. When Satya Nadella became the CEO of Microsoft in 2014, he not only looked for continuous improvement, they weren't doing that well at that point, he decided to pursue failure. And what I mean by that is he created, I think it was 4 projects, but don't quote me, that were costly, high risk. But if one of them succeeded, it would be a game changer. And one of them did succeed and put them at the forefront of cloud technology, brought them into prominence again. So these kinds of extreme versions of growth mindset are really impressive.
Carol, you heard Peyton talk earlier about complacency. And I know in the updated version of Mindset, you have a declaration, beware success.
Yeah.
What does that mean for you?
Well, you think you're great. You think you're a genius. You think that what has worked for you so far to bring you to the top will keep working. And that's kind of in today's market and today's economy, that's a recipe for obsolescence. And so the success, I loved when Peyton Manning said, and also Commissioner Kavanaugh, they analyze their successes. They analyze their failures. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? All the time. No complacency. No, and people joining the organization, the more fixed mindset organizations, and if they're appointed in a august role, feel like, hey, I'm joining this success, and it's just going to take me somewhere.
Right. Carol, you've been around a lot of growth mindset leaders. What are some of the other common characteristics and traits that you see?
So the boldness, the looking for talent. One thing that really surprised me with some of the top CEOs is their social commitments. Do you know that they team with their competitors, their rivals, their enemies, to make sure, whether it's energy or tech, that they are serving society? And not just banding together to ward off legislation or things like that, but really thinking, what is our responsibility in this modern world? Our products have the potential for good or evil. And they don't just look for profit. These things are very profitable. They look for shepherding them together in a way that will benefit society in the short and the long run.
It's a big vision. What about the other side of that coin? Are there leadership traits that you see that lead folks to a fixed mindset that we as a group should be mindful of and avoid?
Yeah, we had a conversation about a week ago, you and I, about bad forms of accountability. Yeah. Punishment, judgment, demotion, firing, as opposed to good forms of accountability, which Commissioner Kavanaugh spoke about really beautifully. And another example, aside from the New York Fire Department, is the Shell International Corporation. They have dangerous products. The employees can interact with those products and be injured, and so can the customers. And they used to just have punishment practices. Well, they had something you hung around your neck with the rules. And then if you were found to be to blame for an accident, you were punished severely. But then they realized this wasn't helping them bring down accidents. And what they did instead, just as Commissioner Kavanaugh said, proactive suggestions from people throughout the organization. And when something went wrong, you have to create an environment in which people can be honest about what they did. And the teams collaborated to figure out how a person of goodwill and high skill could do something, and how to prevent it in the future. And under this, well, they're having a whole growth mindset transformation, but under this policy, in 2020, the accidents went to zero.
Carol, in your research, you've also found some benefits in addition to safety that employees have been beneficiaries of through the implementation, the pursuit of a growth mindset. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, we, led by my former student, Mary Murphy, who's now a superstar professor and researcher, we collaborated on this project to study a group of Fortune 500 companies, some of which, according to the reports of their employees, had more of a fixed mindset. Again, talent, brilliance, fixed talent and brilliance were believed in and worshipped. And growth mindset companies where their employees said they believe in and value the development for all. What we found was that those in the growth mindset companies said they were more committed and loyal, and they wouldn't just take another job if it came along, kind of like working for nothing that paid men. Not quite, but they felt valued and trusted. They said if they took a well-considered, really reasonable risk and it didn't work out, the company would have their back. They also were excited that the company valued collaboration, innovation, teamwork. In contrast, the people in the more fixed mindset organizations were talking about the really toxic forms of competition, like hoarding information from your teammates, not just other departments, cutting corners to look like a genius, to curry favor with the powers that be.
Carol, if there was one single bit of advice you'd give all of us here today with respect to how we best go forward in pursuit of developing a growth mindset for ourselves and for our organizations, what would that advice be?
I would say, first I want to say, people should share their struggles. And that's something that has really worked to transform fixed mindset departments or departments within fixed mindset companies. One department in a super fixed mindset culture of genius, West Coast tech, at least at the time, they started each meeting going around, each person talking about what they're struggling with. This was taboo because in a fixed mindset company, you can't admit struggling, you can't admit flaws. And so that transformed the department. A person would say what they're struggling with at work. Someone else would say, me too, let's do it together. Or I had that struggle and this is what helped me. But what I will say for people here going forward. Do something outrageously growth mindset, something you would not think of doing, but that the person you want to be would absolutely do. And do it for yourself, do it for your company.
Well, I think we have been challenged. Carol, thank you very, very much.
A real pleasure.